Hello everyone, if you have your own paranormal experiences you'd like to share, please send them to our channel. Remember, we're not looking for fiction, but real accounts of unexplained events. Stay safe out there, and remember, not all ghosts are scary. Some just need help finding their way home. The GPS died somewhere north of Umeå, its screen flickering to black as we entered the endless expanse of Swedish wilderness. My girlfriend Emma laughed it off, her blonde hair catching the strange, perpetual twilight that passes for night during the summer months above the Arctic Circle. "We'll figure it out," she said, squeezing my hand across the center console of our rental Volvo. "Besides, how lost can we get? There's only one road." She was wrong about that. We'd been driving for 3 days through Sweden's breathtaking landscape, documenting our journey for Emma's travel blog. What started as a romantic getaway to see the midnight sun had turned into something far more ambitious, a complete circuit through Lapland's most remote regions. Emma insisted we take the back roads, the ones that didn't appear on most tourist maps. Authentic experiences, she called them. The road beneath our wheels had gradually transformed from smooth asphalt to rough gravel, then to something that barely qualified as a path. Pine trees pressed in from both sides, their branches scraping against our windows with sounds like fingernails on glass. The midnight sun hung low on the horizon, casting everything in an unsettling orange glow that never seemed to fade. "There," Emma pointed ahead. "A sign." The wooden marker emerged from the tree line, weathered and tilted at an odd angle. The text was in Swedish, which neither of us could read fluently, but I caught enough to understand it was pointing toward a town called Svartskog, literally black forest in my limited Swedish vocabulary. Population 347, Emma read from her guidebook, which she'd somehow managed to find information about this remote settlement. Founded in 1892 as a logging community. Known for. She frowned. "That's weird. It just says known for its unusual summer solstice traditions." A chill ran down my spine despite the warm evening air. Maybe we should find somewhere else to stop for the night. "Don't be silly, David. Look." She pointed to her phone's battery indicator, which showed a dangerously low charge. "We need to find civilization and a place to plug in. Besides, I'm dying for a real shower." The road to Svartskog wound deeper into the forest, the trees growing taller and more densely packed. What bothered me most was the silence. No birds sang in these woods. No insects buzzed. Even our engine seemed muffled, as though the forest itself was absorbing sound. After 20 minutes of driving, the trees suddenly parted, revealing a small village nestled in a circular clearing. The buildings were traditional Swedish wooden structures, painted in deep reds and yellows, but something about them seemed wrong. Too uniform. Too perfect. Like a movie set rather than a place where people actually lived. "It's beautiful," Emma breathed, already reaching for her camera. I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. Windows stared down at us from every building, dark and empty despite the warm glow emanating from some of the structures. A few people moved along the streets, but they walked with strange, measured steps, never looking in our direction. We parked outside what appeared to be the town's only in a 2-story building with Gastus Svartskog painted in elaborate script above the door. Emma practically bounced out of the car, energized by the prospect of exploring somewhere completely off the beaten path. The inn's proprietor was a tall, thin man with pale skin and nearly white hair, despite appearing to be in his 40s. His English was flawless but carried an odd cadence, as though he was translating each word in his head before speaking. "Welcome to Svartskog," he said, his smile never quite reaching his eyes. "I am Nils. You are traveling far from the main roads." "We like adventure," Emma replied, already charming him with her infectious enthusiasm. "We're documenting remote Swedish communities for a travel blog." Something flickered across Nils' face, concern, perhaps, or warning. "You have arrived at an interesting time. Tomorrow begins midsummer. Our celebration is quite traditional. Very old traditions." "That's perfect," Emma exclaimed. "We'd love to document authentic Swedish midsummer celebrations." "Yes," Nils said slowly. "Authentic. That is one word for it." Our room was on the second floor, spartanly furnished but clean. Emma immediately began uploading photos to her laptop while I stood at the window, looking out over the village square. The sun hung in its perpetual twilight position, casting long shadows that seemed to move independently of their objects. "David," Come look at this, Emma called from her computer. I can't find any information about this place online. No reviews, no photos, nothing. It's like Svartskog doesn't exist digitally. Maybe they like their privacy, I suggested, though the absence bothered me too. Or maybe, she grinned, we found something truly undiscovered. This could be huge for the blog. That night, neither of us slept well. The silence was too complete, too oppressive. Around 3 a.m., I woke to the sound of chanting drifting through our window. Multiple voices, singing in harmony, words I couldn't understand. When I looked outside, I saw figures moving in the forest beyond the village, carrying what appeared to be torches. Emma, I whispered, shaking her gently. She stirred, listened for a moment, then smiled sleepily. Probably just rehearsing for tomorrow's festival. Go back to sleep. But the chanting continued until dawn, which in this place of midnight sun was merely a subtle shift in the quality of light rather than actual sunrise. The next morning, we found the dining room filled with locals eating in complete silence. They nodded politely when we entered but made no attempt at conversation. The food was simple but delicious: fresh fish, berries, dark bread. What unnerved me was how everyone seemed to eat in perfect synchronization, as though following an unspoken rhythm. The midsummer celebration begins at sunset, Nils informed us as we finished breakfast. You are welcome to observe, but I must warn you, our traditions are very old. Very specific. Perhaps it would be better if you remained indoors after dark. Emma laughed. We're not afraid of a little Swedish folk dancing. Nils' expression grew grave. This is not folk dancing, miss. This is something much older. After breakfast, we explored the village. Every building was immaculately maintained, every garden perfectly tended. But we saw no children playing, heard no sounds of normal life. The few residents we encountered smiled and nodded but seemed reluctant to engage in conversation. At the village's small museum, really just a single room filled with artifacts, we learned that Svartskog had been established by a group of settlers who'd fled religious persecution in the south. They'd brought their own beliefs, their own practices, blending them with older traditions they'd found already existing in these deep woods. Look at this, Emma pointed to a display case containing old photographs. The images showed midsummer celebrations from decades past: circles of dancers around towering bonfires, intricate wooden sculptures, people wearing elaborate masks carved from wood and bone. In the corner of the display was a single photograph that made my blood run cold. It showed a group of villagers standing around what appeared to be a person tied to a wooden post, surrounded by kindling. The faces in the crowd were ecstatic, almost rapturous. That can't be what it looks like, Emma murmured. An elderly woman materialized beside us as if from thin air. Ah, you found our history, she said in heavily accented English. That photograph is from 1952. The last time we performed the complete ritual. What ritual? I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted to know. The offering of the midnight sun, she explained matter-of-factly. Every 25 years, we must give something precious to the forest. To keep the balance. To ensure the sun never truly sets on Svartskog. Emma grabbed my arm. What happened in 1952? The old woman's eyes grew distant. A traveler came to our village. Like you. Curious about our ways. He stayed for midsummer. She paused, studying our faces. He became part of our traditions. Permanently. We left the museum quickly, Emma's enthusiasm finally beginning to wane. Back at the inn, we found Nils waiting for us with an expression of deep concern. You should leave, he said without preamble. Now? Before sunset. Why? Emma demanded. What's going to happen? Nils struggled with his words. I cannot fully explain. But every 25 years, on midsummer, the forest requires payment. For the gift of the eternal light. For the protection it provides our community. Payment? I felt ice forming in my stomach. A life, he whispered. A willing sacrifice. Someone who chooses to become part of the forest forever. That's insane, Emma said, but her voice lacked conviction. Is it? Nils asked sadly. Look around you. Have you seen any signs of aging? Of death? Of winter? The forest protects us, sustains us, keeps us in eternal summer. But such gifts come with a price. As if to prove his point, I noticed for the first time that despite the passage of a full day, the light outside hadn't changed. The sun remained in exactly the same position, casting identical shadows. "We need to leave," I said urgently. "Now?" But when we rushed to our car, we found all 4 tires slashed. Nils appeared behind us, looking genuinely regretful. "I am sorry," he said. "But the village has decided. You arrived at the perfect time, strangers, with no connections to miss you. The forest has already chosen." From every building, residents began to emerge. They moved with that same synchronized pace I'd noticed before, carrying ropes, wooden masks, and other items I didn't want to identify. Their faces showed no malice, only a kind of resigned determination. "This is crazy," Emma backed against the car. "You can't just murder people for some superstitious ritual." "Murder?" An old man stepped forward, the same one from the museum. "Child, no one will be murdered. The chosen one goes willingly into the forest. They become part of something eternal, beautiful. They ensure our survival." "What if we refuse?" I asked. The villagers exchanged glances. "Then you will remain here until you choose. The forest can wait. Time moves differently in Svartskog." As if to prove his point, I looked at my watch and realized it showed the exact same time as when we'd arrived, 6:47 p.m. Despite eating, sleeping, exploring for what felt like over 24 hours, no time had passed. "One of you must choose," Nils explained gently. "Go into the forest willingly, and the other may leave. Refuse, and you both remain here forever, caught in this moment, until one of you eventually accepts." Emma grabbed my hand, her palm slick with sweat. "David, what do we do?" The villagers began forming a circle around us, their movements graceful and hypnotic. Some had donned the wooden masks, carved into the shapes of forest animals: bears, wolves, ravens. Others carried torches that burned with strange, greenish flames. "You have until the bonfire is lit," the old man announced, gesturing toward the village square where others were constructing an enormous pyre. "Then the ritual begins, with or without your cooperation." We were escorted back to the inn, but it was clear we were prisoners. The windows wouldn't open, the door was locked from the outside, and when I tried to break the glass, it proved impossibly strong. "There has to be another way," Emma paced frantically around the small room. "Some way out of this." Through our window, we watched the villagers prepare for their ceremony. The bonfire grew higher, decorated with intricate wooden sculptures and what looked like offerings of food and crafted goods. Flowers were woven into elaborate patterns around the base. "Look," I pointed to movement in the forest beyond the village. "There's something out there." Between the trees, shapes moved, tall, ethereal figures that seemed to be made of light and shadow. They drifted closer to the village as the preparations intensified, as though drawn by the activity. "The forest spirits," Emma whispered. "They're real." As sunset approached, or what would have been sunset in a normal place, the entire village gathered in the square. The air filled with the sound of ancient songs, voices harmonizing in ways that seemed to resonate through the earth itself. Nils appeared at our door, flanked by several masked villagers. "It is time to choose," he announced solemnly. Emma and I looked at each other, both terrified, both knowing that this impossible situation was somehow completely real. The supernatural entities in the forest, the time that refused to pass, the village that existed outside normal reality, it was all true. "If one of us goes," I asked quietly, "you promise the other can leave?" "Yes," Nils nodded. "That is the agreement. The forest requires only one." Emma suddenly stepped forward. "I'll go." "No," I grabbed her arm. "Emma, no. We'll find another way." "There is no other way," she said, and I could see the resignation in her eyes. "You have Sarah, your job, your life back home. My whole existence is about finding stories, having adventures. Maybe this is the ultimate story." "That's insane." "Is it?" She smiled sadly. "Look what we found here, David. Proof that magic is real, that there are places where the normal rules don't apply. If I have to become part of something ancient and powerful to let you escape, then maybe that's my purpose. The villagers waited patiently as we argued, their masked faces impassive. Finally, Emma kissed me gently and turned to Nils. "I choose to go willingly," she announced. "Let David leave safely." The villagers erupted in harmonious song, their voices rising in what sounded like celebration mixed with mourning. Emma was led away, down into the square, toward the bonfire that now blazed with those otherworldly green flames. I watched from the window as they placed a flower crown on her head and draped her in white robes. She looked back up at me once, smiling bravely, then walked steadily toward the forest edge where the spirit figures waited. As she crossed the threshold between village and wilderness, something extraordinary happened. Her form began to shimmer, becoming translucent, merging with the light itself. The spirits embraced her, and she became one of them, a luminous figure dancing between the trees. The villagers' song reached a crescendo, and suddenly the sun moved. For the first time since our arrival, it continued its path across the sky, finally setting in a spectacular display of colors. True darkness fell over Svartskog for the first time in 25 years. When morning came, real morning, with natural sunrise, I found our car repaired and running. Nils stood beside it, looking older somehow, more human. "She made her choice freely," he said quietly. "The forest will honor that. You are free to go." I drove away from Svartskog as fast as the rough roads would allow, but I kept looking back through the rear-view mirror. Just before the village disappeared completely from view, I saw her, Emma, or what she had become, standing at the forest's edge. She raised one luminous hand in farewell. I never found Svartskog again. GPS shows only empty wilderness where the village should be. No online searches turn up any mention of the place. Sometimes I wonder if it was all an elaborate hallucination brought on by exhaustion and isolation. But then I remember Emma's final message to me, delivered through dreams that feel more real than waking life. "I'm not gone, David. I'm part of something eternal now. The forest remembers everything, protects everything. And in 25 years, when the sun stops moving again, I'll be here waiting to welcome the next traveler who loses their way in the Swedish wilderness." I've never returned to Sweden. But sometimes, on summer nights when the sun seems to linger too long in the sky, I swear I can hear her voice carried on the wind, singing ancient songs in a language I don't recognize but somehow understand. The forest remembers. The forest waits. And somewhere in the endless wilderness north of Umeå, in a place that may or may not exist on any map, Emma dances with the spirits of the midnight sun, ensuring that some mysteries remain forever hidden in the deep, dark woods of Sweden. Hey everyone, thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like and subscribe button, and then share it with your friends. Your support helps us grow and create even more awesome content. We appreciate you being part of the journey.